Welcome, everyone, to Beyond Surviving on Conversations That Heal, the safe space for survivors of childhood sexual abuse to receive support, resources, and share their stories. Beyond Surviving is about freedom, healing, connection, and even laughter and fun. And most importantly, it's about letting go of the pain of abuse and finally moving on. I'm Rachel Grant, and for those of you who don't yet know me, I've been a sexual abuse recovery coach since 2007 and am the author of Beyond Surviving, the final stage of recovery from sexual abuse. I work with survivors who are sick and tired of feeling broken and unfixable, and I help them let go of the pain of abuse and move on with their lives. You can learn more about me and the Beyond Surviving program at www.rachelgrantcoaching.com. Today, I am so very excited to have you here with me and my guest, Kari Kelley, who's going to be sharing with us her journey of recovery and how her one-woman show played a vital role in her own healing. So just to tell you a little bit about Kari, she's the author of Black, Blind, and Female, keynote speaker and vocalist, and is deeply involved in passionately sharing her voice of courage and inspiration. Kari has been a featured speaker, author, and vocalist on a wide variety of stages, panels, radio, and TV shows across the United States. She's also featured in the May 2014 issue of Landmark Insights about the creation, production, and performance of her one-woman show, Somebody Else's Child. Kari was conceived as a consequence of her mother being violently assaulted. Kari was adopted, once at 9 months and again at 4 years old. And her experiences in these families left Kari wounded, battered, and legally blind. Like so many others who have lived through similar situations, Kari spent years living as a victim until she discovered a deeper inner strength and a purpose, and she turned her childhood ordeal into an opportunity. She now inspires and assists people to overcome adversity in their own lives. She enjoys spending time in nature and gardening, reading mysteries, listening to live music, and going to comedy shows. And she is a hoot. I had the great pleasure of going to see Kari in her one-woman show and meeting her personally, and you all are in for an absolute treat tonight. So, Kari, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited about this.
Yeah, I just knew, when we started talking a couple of months ago, I guess, maybe it's even been as much as 6 months, how time flies, right? That that you were somebody that I really wanted to highlight. First of all, your story is incredible, and certainly after seeing you performing, I thought, this is someone who really has something important to say and to share, and so wanted to bring you and bring you in front of my community. So I'm excited to hear more about you tonight and to share your experiences with folks. And just to kind of get us started, what I'd love to know is, what really spurred you on to create a one-woman show, and maybe what was that process like for you?
Well, actually, the show was a result of I had a really deep desire to put a stop to child abuse, especially child sexual abuse, but I didn't have the kind of credentials to do the kind of work that I thought would make it stop. So I thought the only way that I could maybe get people to listen to me is through entertainment. And so I created the one-woman show in order to take people on a journey, basically, so that they could see different characteristics of the whole spectrum of the aspects that come about because of child abuse. I wanted to take them on the journey through the eyes of the child, going through it, and as you grow up, if it continues and how it continues, and then all of the different emotional aspects that play a part in the choices that somebody might make because of their abuse, and the anger, and then depression, and then when you're starting to search for, something else, something bigger, and then the resilient spirit of surviving it and then being able to help someone else who might be stuck in the vicious cycle. And so I thought that would be a way for me to, get the conversation started. And so that was the way I thought would work, by putting together the one-woman show so that I could really express myself and express, what I went through, and maybe it would make a difference for other people.
I love that. Had you dabbled in theater or writing prior to taking on this project?
Actually, not anything huge. You do theater in high school or, different church plays and everything, but I can't say that I was like a professional actress. Now, I am a drama queen, and I love attention. So, that played its role. It had a spot, So, yeah.
Awesome.
So that always comes in handy.
Oh, for sure, no doubt. Well, so that's really fascinating to me. So you kind of had this, it sounds like this idea about how you wanted to tell the story and kind of the progression of it. What was it like to really be just sitting down and then kind of trying to piece together and put together this play? What was the agony of it? What was the pleasure of it? What did you just notice in that whole process of creation for yourself?
Well, the process in the beginning was fine because, it was all my story and it was all me. And so I didn't have to, how you hear, the stories behind actors and actresses that are taking on a character, and so they have to do all this research and they have to, find a way to embody the person that they're going to be portraying. Well, since it was my story, what I had to do was just go back through my memories and go back through my own life. So that took some courage, if you will, here, because I thought that I was so past it all, and I'll be fine. I'll be able to, remember all this and portray all this, and I can put it out there and it won't be any big deal. Well, that was certainly not true once it got started. I mean, I was in bed for a whole week after I was done with the show because of all the emotional stuff that started to come up. But ironically enough, it wasn't a problem while I was on stage performing it.
And it was just kind of like that afterwards, kind of, oh my gosh, the release of all kind of the emotions and maybe the tension of it all, and all the energy that you had been pouring into this production kind of caught up with you a little bit. I can see that.
Yeah.
I think that's understandable and reasonable. Yeah. Well, one of the things that I really enjoyed about, watching your particular one-woman show was this idea of watching the evolution of a person, from young, carefree, playful, just innocent, to really in the abuse, experiencing it, going through it, and then coming out of it, but yet there's still so much left over that we have to deal with and we have to process. And I know that one of the characters that you explored was the destroyer, which is kind of what we were focusing on tonight, was, stopping this particular aspect or this particular character, if you will, that sometimes shows up as a part of our journey. So I would love for you to share with us a section, that particular section from your show called The Destroyer.
Okay. So I'll perform the monologue of it, and then we talk about it. Is that how you want that?
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
Okay. So I am the destroyer. It is my mission to steal, kill, and destroy the innocence of children. Now, I don't do this all by myself, and I don't have to pick and choose where and with whom I can destroy. I can exist in the richest mansions of the world and the lowest lean-tos of the world, but my allies will allow me to destroy the innocents. Secrecy. Secrecy is one of the best allies that I have. How many people are keeping the secret of my existence? Denial. Denial is one of my very best allies. Children have vivid imagination, so it is very easy for the grown-ups that they confess to chalk it up to wild imaginings of the children, and they just like to lie a lot. Denial. And then one of the easiest ways for me to spread my poison is to find out what the priority is of the caregiver of the innocent child. If I can find out if there's a priority just a little bit higher than keeping the innocents safe, then I have free access and free reign to steal, kill, and destroy the innocence of children, and no one is going to stop me.
Oh, man. That gives me chills every time, and thank you for sharing that. Okay, so let's get into this character. Tell me about, as you were writing this play, how this particular character came to be and what it really represents to you.
Well, this character is basically the mindset of a pedophile. It started out with the mindset of a pedophile. Like, they, believe that it's okay for them to steal, kill, and destroy the innocence of children, but one of the ways that they can get away with it is because there are people that keep the secrets. There are, parents, like I've been told stories about how a child will go to their mother and let them know what's been going on, and that mother might just, either blatantly call that child a liar or say things like, oh, that's just your imagination. Or even the pedophile will, tell that child, nobody's going to believe you if you tell. And, there's so many different situations. And then the other one where a person who will allow their child to be abused because their priority is, I can't put a stop to that because then I won't get, fill in the blank, whatever the person in charge is bringing to the table. How many people are in a position where they want things and someone who can bring those things into a person's life, they do that specifically because that person might have young children that are vulnerable. And so the stories are all around us. And it was just easy to pull things from my own life to, put this character together and the mindset and put it in a like a sinister voice so that you can really feel it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think you're speaking to things that are so true that, part of what happens, in this experience of abuse is that we do go through these stages of secrecy and hiding and denial. And you're right. It's like the person who is looking to be abusive, who's looking for those opportunities, it's like they thrive off of that. That's what helps them get away with and continue these harmful acts. And I thought this insight, I had never really thought about this before, about how caregivers, we sometimes call those secondary abusers, folks who are meant to be protecting a child but, don't. This idea of there being priorities, like things that they are caring about more, or their own fears or their own hang-ups that get in the way of them showing up and protecting the child. I thought that was, extremely insightful. And I guess one thing I would love to hear is just, in your own journey, how did secrecy and denial play out for you personally?
Honestly, there wasn't a lot of secrecy per se. It was mostly denial and that whole priority thing. For me, there was a situation where what the situation that was going on in my bedroom was overheard, and that person overheard it and then called other family members and discussed it. So it wasn't, it was kind of like business as usual kind of thing. And it wasn't until, like, I got grown up and started asking questions about why I wasn't better protected that I found out a lot more had been going on, behind the scenes, so to speak, and that was where the secrecy all came in and everything. I'm like, okay, so, putting the whole story together, realizing what all happened, and then to even further the situation where some of the people that had abused me went on to abuse other people, and that was unknown, but because it was denied when it happened to me, I didn't realize that it was being denied for any other reason than because I was the adopted one. Since I was adopted, I thought, I have been told things like, that's what, you're adopted, so you're not the same as the flesh and blood children or whatever. So when anything different happened to me, I always chalked it up to me being adopted. And so it wasn't until like way later that I found out that, I wasn't special. I really wasn't special when it came to the abusers. I wasn't special.
Gosh, yeah. Yeah, and, when you think back to the impact of that, being in this home where, clearly there's abuse going on, and yet, you wake up in the morning and you sit down to breakfast, or, you sit down and hang out with folks, and then it's like this duality that we find ourselves in, this strange, it's almost like a dual existence where we have this one part of our lives where, we're just a normal kid and doing what we do and hanging out with our folks and our family, and then there's this other part of our lives where there's this pain and this hurt and this abuse going on. For you, what was the impact of that?
Well, I have so much going on. I mean, that I was always constantly dealing with being legally blind, and I was not a cute little girl. I was like, I had this really coarse hair, and that caused, I was teased and picked on for so many different reasons. It felt to me like I was always going to be miserable. And so when I did find little places of sunshine, I tried to hold on to every little thing. Like once the church found out that I could sing, I wanted to sing all the time. You know, when I did something in school that made me, you know, that made people want to be my friend, I tried to do that. Like my mother had a candy store. So I would find a way to bring candy to school because then I had friends and people that were nice to me. So, you know, I was dealing with so much. The abuse was just one more thing.
Yeah, yeah. That's such a good point that, you know, many of us are going through not only the, you know, primary abuse, but then there are all these, you know, secondary things that are happening to us that are, you know, sometimes, you know, like a part of childhood, a part of growing up. We'd love to not have that be the case, and I think there's a lot that can be done. And kids and folks are certainly learning and becoming kinder these days and more aware of the impact of bullying, that it's not just, oh, kids being kids and whatever, people will get over it, that it does have an impact. But you're having to deal with that on top of, you know, more serious abuse. And, yeah, it just kind of gets overwhelming. And then when you don't have any advocates, anyone who's standing up for you, and, you know, taking that role of protector, you know, that defender where, you know, that seems to be the counter character to the destroyer is, you know, someone who can defend and protect you. And so we end up trying to do that ourselves and usually don't do it in a lot of good ways. we usually make a mess of it.
Oh, yeah.
I know, certainly for myself, you know, that was the case. And so, I guess, you know, the next thing that comes to mind is just, you know, once you finally found yourself on the stage and performing this one-woman show, going through these various stages of your life and talking about these different things that you'd been through, I know that the afterwards you were, you know, pretty overwhelmed, but I'm just curious, you know, how did the show help you in healing?
Oh, wow. Just the being able to express myself and you know, I also did a lot of meditating and praying and a lot of spiritual work leading up to it. And, you know, there a lot of funny things happened leading up to the actual show. Like, I had this major meltdown in Costco one day because there was something that I wanted, they didn't have it in, and I just burst into tears. And I was inconsolable. So, like, now this is my running joke. I have, you know, like, okay, whenever I'm going to do, you know, a new performance or anything, I can't go to Costco. So, you know, it's, I knew it's like my desire to have to be be self-expressed, and my desire to you know, make this point of if I can save one child from having to go through the things that I went through just by telling my story and bringing people through the experience of what that child feels like and what they're going through, then, you know, it's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it. And so I just knew that it was impossible for me not to do the show. And so I just had to take whatever was coming my way until I got on and off the stage. And, I mean, the day of the show, the theater lost power, and I didn't even think that I was going to be able to do the show that day. I mean, it was like right up to the wire when the power went back on. And people were standing outside like, okay, are we going to have a... And so, I mean, there was just so many things that came my way that day that on a normal day, I probably would have, like, lost my mind. But that desire of, you have to do this because there is a child out there that is, you know, you can save one child from going through all this hell if you tell your story.
Yeah.
And so I just had to do it. I had to do it, and there was just no options and no way around it. And I, you know, that resilient spirit, or that thing that my Creator put inside of me to get through stuff, showed up that day and got me through that show. So
Any regrets?
The one thing that I do wish I had done was put more music into it and sing more, because that's the feedback that I got from a lot of people that came to the show. They wanted me to sing more. That one song that I did was just not enough. I'm like, okay. So I'm working on bringing more music into it, and so yeah, that will be the only thing. But everything else, I think, happened the way it was supposed to, and you know, I think I passed the test with flying colors, so to speak.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, what's really powerful about this is the breaking of the silence, right? If there is any denial and secrecy, that, you know, not everyone will find their way onto a stage, but that we can all, in our own way, find our voice and know that we do have the right to speak and to tell our story, that it's not something that we have to hide or be ashamed of, you know, that we can tell our story in a way that's powerful and meaningful to us, and that there's a lot of healing to be had by doing so.
Yeah, one of the things that is a staple or a hallmark of my show is that I want people to have resources when they leave the show. I created a postcard with, like, your coaching program and service on there, along with other resources for people who either have their own story of abuse that they need to work through, which is one way for them to work with you, or if they know of a child that's in harm's way and they need to make some kind of gestures to put a stop to that, there were resources for those too. It wasn't just about me telling my story and entertainment and all of that. I really wanted people to have resources so that one of the other experiences that I wanted to save people from was when that child grows up and they start asking questions. You don't want to be the one that's wringing your hands and shifting your feet, and you can't look that person in the eye because you didn't help and you didn't say or do anything to try to help that child who is now an adult and looking you in the eye. So I thought, you know, because there's nothing worse than you having to, you know, tell some child that you don't know why you couldn't help or didn't help. And all you have is excuses and shame. And, you know, I'm like, okay, so if you come to my show, you won't have that as an excuse. You will have resources so that if it comes down to that, you can at least say, I tried. I called this one. I did try to help. I did this. I did that. And you can have something to hold up and say, there's no more, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to help you. So.
Well, I think you're speaking to something that's very key and very important is that, yes, part of it is educating children and even adults who are still hiding their story or are not getting the help, to speak up and how to do that. But it's also the other piece of, like, people knowing what to do when somebody does disclose, whether they're still in the, experience of being abused or they're telling you about something that happened long ago. I mean, certainly one of the things I, work with my clients around is undoing the hurt that has been created by people saying just stupid shit, quite honestly. Just when somebody has said, this is what happened to me, and then, you get replies back like, well, why didn't you stop it, or why didn't you tell anyone, and all that. And those statements, they don't come from a place of malice. Is my philosophy about that. I think it just comes from a place of not knowing any better and not knowing what to do and how to respond. So I love that one of the things that you're advocating for and working on is giving those resources to people and teaching people how to respond and how to be caregivers and how not to just turn away. So one of the things that I realize we haven't really talked about, but that I would love for you to share a little bit about is, this isn't the first thing that you've written. You're also a published author, and you have this book that you've, put out there, Black, Blind, and Female. And maybe if you want to just take a moment to tell us a little bit about that book and what that was like for you to author that book.
Now, that book, that is an evolution of my spiritual journey, if you will. I started, it really didn't start out to be a book. It started out as me trying to forgive the mother that adopted me when I was 4 years old. In 2010, I went on a trip to Sedona, Arizona, which is a place in the United States, for those international listeners we have, that is very full of energetic, vibrational energy, or they call them vortexes. Now, when I went to Sedona, I was just going to spend some time with a friend who was terminally ill, and that's where she wanted to go before she got too sick to travel. So I was just going to hang out with a couple of my friends. I had no idea about energy or vibrational healing or, any of that. I was just going with the flow. Wherever they said they wanted to go, we're going to go see an energy healer. I'm like, okay, let's do it. And I was like, I don't know what this is supposed to do. I don't have no clue about this. But we talked to one lady who gave me some information that I actually took seriously. And I started this process of writing letters to my mother, the one that adopted me when I was 4 years old. And it just evolved into me telling my story and then realizing that my friend who was terminally ill, I wanted to have something to dedicate to her that was going to just last longer. And so I knew that it had to be the book. It had to be the book. And so that's how but it took me like 2 years to write it and get it published. And I feel like the story is even bigger, and I'm not done writing. I need to write a second book because when I shoved it out there to the publishers, it was just because I felt like that was enough. the feedback that I'm getting is, where's part 2?
That's nice. It's a nice kind of feedback to be getting, for sure.
Yes.
Wow,
So,
that's amazing. Good for you. And if somebody wanted to get your book, where could they find it?
They could go to my website, loveIsLimitless.com. And you can get the ebook version. You could get a paperback version from my website.
Oh, okay. Great. So, and we'll repeat that again for sure to make sure that listeners can jot that down and get that from you. So what's next on your plate? You've written this book, you've done this one-woman show, we may have a part 2 of the book coming, but what's on the horizon for you?
I believe that the show is coming out again. I'm shooting for April because April is Child Abuse Awareness Month, and so I plan to work on another version of the show. I have some really good ideas that I'm working and fleshing out, and so that's what's next. Just working on the next one and redoing, just up-leveling what I did the first time, and also getting more resources for people to have on hand to deal with either their own story of abuse or to make sure that children are being taken out of harm's way. But I want really strong resources that are, really ready to take the actions, it's not just lip service. I want to put money where mouth is, resources for children to get the help they want. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know, if nothing else, what I do know is that you have a strong spirit and that you are a huge advocate and are really connected to making sure that people are getting resources and that you're a connector. And so, folks, if you're listening and you're kind of wondering, where do you go for things, Kari's a great person to reach out to. And, she's very resourceful and very determined and also hopefully very willing to be put on the spot, because one thing that I was thinking of as you were talking about the singing in the play was how much I loved that song that you sang at the very end. And I don't know if you're comfortable doing it a cappella, but I think that would be such a treat for our listeners if you if you're game and are up for it. And if not, totally fine. I'm totally putting you on the spot right now.
Well, you know what? You're actually in luck. I might even be able to do that. I might even be able to sing a little bit for you. I won't do the whole song because the whole song a cappella just won't work. But let me do. It was God Bless the Child, and I changed it to That's Got Her Own, because I've got my own.
Yeah.
Them that's got shall get, them that's not shall lose. For the Bible says, yet it still is news. Mama may have and Papa may have, but God bless the child that's got her own. That's got her own. And money, you got lots and lots of friends crowding door. But when it's all gone and the spending ends, they don't come around anymore. No, no, no. Rich relations will give a crust of bread and such. You can help yourself, but darling, don't you take too much. Mama may have, and Papa may have, but God bless the child that's got her own, that's got her own.
Woo! Yeah. So good, Kari.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. Look at you, just pulling it out. I love it. Thanks for being a good sport. Oh, that was so beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome. That's just another gift that I believe that I'm supposed to share. So I always look forward to doing that.
That's awesome. Well, we're coming close to the end of our time together here, and we do have a little bit of time left. So what I want to do is make sure that folks know how to get in touch with you. So you mentioned your website, which is loveislimitless.com, which is a great name, by the way. So definitely feel free to head over there and check out Kari again at loveislimitless.com. And, you can find on that website a link to purchase her book. You can learn more about booking Kari if you want to have her come to your community to speak or to perform. That's definitely an option there. And, Kari, do you travel outside of the state? If somebody outside of California is looking for an inspirational speaker or performance?
Yes. I have Mike.
Happy to travel.
Will travel. Have Mike will travel.
Got it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go
Perfect.
wherever I'm needed, because, I'll go wherever. So.
Great. And keep in mind, if you're in the Bay Area, definitely you can also join Kari's mailing list, which I highly recommend, so that you can stay up to date about her upcoming performances and any new projects that she's working on. You can connect that way on the website as well. Am I missing anything? Am I forgetting anything?
No. You can friend me on Facebook. I'm on Twitter and LinkedIn, the usuals. So those are all options to connect with me as well.
Okay.
So,
got it.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Great. Awesome. Well, it's been a real pleasure having you here with us tonight, and I really appreciate the message that you're sharing, that the destroyer doesn't get to win, that we can become our own defenders by speaking out and sharing ourselves in whatever way makes sense for us. I think that's a really beautiful message. And any final thoughts, any last thoughts that you'd like to give to our listeners tonight?
Well, okay, here's my message. For any destroyer out there, you won't win. You will be caught. The second thing is, if you are a person who might be putting something else as a priority above and beyond the protection of the child that you are responsible for, don't. Rethink that. You must rethink that. And to those who may be still stuck in the cycle, I'm here to tell you that when you choose to come out of that, there will be help and resources for you so that you can survive it, get through it, and be the resilient spirit that you are and that you're always meant to be.
Beautifully said. My goodness. Thank you so much for that. Well, folks, thank you so much for being here with us tonight and sharing this time with Kari and I. Of course, you can always stay up to date with the projects that I'm working on and check out the resources that are available at my site as well, rachelgrantcoaching.com. Nothing major coming up this month. I will be doing a teleseminar in October on shame, so stay tuned for more information about that. And remember to come back and join us the second Tuesday of each month here for Beyond Surviving Radio at 6 p.m. Pacific. And until then, take good care of you and yours. Good night, everyone.